If you're a high-earning Filipino professional who wants a cash buffer that actually protects your plan this year without parking too much or too little in cash, this episode is for you. In the last episode, we talked about insurance optimization, cleaning a policy so your protection actually matches your life today without overpaying for it. But today, we're moving to a different kind of protection, your cash buffers. In client work, I see two structural missteps all the time, either overparking idle cash or running too lean. And we fix both with a simple professional approach to emergency funding. Perhaps you're overbuffered. You're calmly and conservatively sitting on a very big cash balance in your savings accounts or time deposits. You've done a great job saving, and you like the feeling of whatever happens, I'm fine. But at this point, the nagging thought you have is, am I still protecting myself? Or am I overparking money that should be working harder for me? Or perhaps you're underprotected. You're more aggressive with your cash, preferring to spend or invest it than keeping it idle. So you keep what feels like a reasonable buffer, maybe a month or two of expenses, because anyway, income is strong, windfalls are predictable, and you know you can recover from almost anything. But the nagging thought is, if something big hits at the wrong time, how much would this set back my other plans? Can you relate? This episode is for you if you don't want generic 3 to 6 months rules, but you do want a professional way to decide how much is enough and how should I structure it. We'll talk about right-sizing your emergency fund, layering your cash buffers to fit your situation, and how to adjust whether you're over-buffered or under-protected. But before you park another peso in buffers, make sure your insurance premiums aren't quietly eating your cash. Grab my free Insider's Insurance Audit Playbook, a 60-minute checklist to find waste in your insurance portfolio while keeping your coverage intact. Get the download in the show notes or in the description below. Now, let's start by discussing how high performers end up with misaligned buffers. Here's how this usually happens. Let's look at the over-buffer path. So you've had big jumps in income, maybe a few welcome shocks early in your career, and the habit became, sige, park muna yung cash. Better too much than too little. Years later, the cushion grew, but there was never a deliberate decision about how much is enough. It just accumulated. Now, what about the thin buffer path? You've had strong earning power, good career momentum, maybe business upside, maybe bonuses or commissions. And your confidence is high. If something happens, well, I'll just adjust. I can earn it back. I'll use the next bonus. So your buffers stay modest, but there's no clear scenario test behind it. Both are intelligent responses. You're not being careless. You're just reacting to your history. But both can quietly distort the rest of your plan if they're not made explicit. So do a quick label for yourself. No judgment here. As of today, which camp are you closer to? Are you part of the over-buffered camp by design or by accident? Are you in the thin buffer camp, but confident because of earning power? Just pick one. That alone makes the rest of this episode clearer. Now, here's a clean way to see your personal finances as a system. Think in 3 layers. First, you have your cash buffers. This is your first line of defense when life happens. Second, you have your insurance. That's your second line of defense for bigger, low-frequency risks. And finally, you have your investing and goal funding. This is your offense, where long-term growth happens. Now, if buffers are too big, your offense is underfunded. You feel safe for sure, but progress is slow. But if your buffers are too small, your defense is fragile, and you'll be forced to derail goals or raid investments, slow down the offense when something hits. So the question isn't, do I have an emergency fund? No, the question is my buffer sized and structured in a way that matches my real risks and my real earning power? For the next few minutes, we're not choosing products. We're starting work on your buffer policy. Namely, how much do I need? What is allowed to be used for? And in which types of savings vehicles my buffers can sit. Once the policy is clear, the specific product choices become much easier. Now let's talk about right-sizing your true emergency fund. And let's move beyond the simplistic 3 to 6 months rule. Now, that rule can be a useful starting point, okay? But at your level, the variables that matter more are how stable is your income or business? Who relies on you and for what? What fixed obligations won't wait? How strong is your insurance and support system? And here's a more professional frame. Instead of months of income, think of months of must-continue expenses. These are the expenses you cannot or will not compromise quickly, what I call your critical or operational expenses, such as housing, food, key utilities, essential schooling, non-negotiable support, and minimum debt payments. Now, here's a quick back of the envelope process you can follow. Number one, estimate your critical monthly expenses. Take your annual spending, remove the nice to haves and wants, and then divide the answer by 12. You're trying to get your must continue monthly number. Then, number two, choose your comfort range. How many months of those must continue expenses do you want covered from cash if income drops sharply? For some, it's 3 months. For others, it's 6, 9, or 12, depending on your risk profile. Number three, multiply. Multiply your must continue monthly number by the number you chose in your comfort range. That gives you a target range for your true emergency fund. And finally, compare. Are you significantly above that range? Roughly within it? Or clearly below? Even this rough comparison already tells you whether you're overparked or underprotected. And as you right-size your buffer, check the other side of the equation, insurance premiums. Run the 1-hour Insider's Insurance Audit Playbook to right-size your coverage, drop what you don't need, and move whatever you save into your emergency fund and top goals. Download it for free from the show notes or the description below. Now let's talk about structure, because a lot of stress comes from mixing different kinds of cash in one lump. Here's a simple 3-layer buffer structure that keeps things nice and neat. First, you have your liquidity fund. This is money that handles monthly cash flow friction, bills, credit card cycles, maybe even small surprises. This can be kept across a bunch of traditional digital and physical accounts. I personally use all three. I use digital accounts for my areas of misbehavior, seasonal big expenses, and unexpected but inevitable expenses, or UBIs. Check out my video here to know more about these categories. I also use physical cash envelopes for miscellaneous household expenses that are best spent from actual cash, and the rest of my cash for month-to-month operations I keep in my traditional bank accounts. Second, your emergency fund. This is the amount you just calculated, set aside for serious disruptions, not convenience problems. You can park this money in its own account, like a high-yield savings account or a money market fund in your bank of choice. I personally prefer the latter, as its yield adapts faster to the interest rate environment. Finally, third, opportunity funds. This is money you may want access to within the next 1 to 3 years. That's not emergency money. Say for business capital, a large purchase, or investment capital if markets offer a good entry point. For shorter-term goals, it's best to park opportunity money in a high-yield savings account or money market fund, while for longer-term goals, you can get more adventurous with investments. Clarity between these 3 buckets is more important than squeezing the last bit of yield. And once your categories are clean, product decisions are easier, and you stop second-guessing yourself. Now here's a quick mental allocation exercise. Take your existing cash and time deposits and roughly assign amounts to the liquidity fund, the emergency fund, and your opportunity funds. Even doing it mentally surfaces whether something feels off. If you can clearly categorize your balances, that's usually the reason your buffer feels big but still not reassuring, or okay but secretly fragile. Now, if you're over-buffered, let's talk about converting your excess safety cash into progress. Now, let's talk about the hidden cost. If your buffers are double or triple what you realistically need, the cost isn't just lower interest. The real cost is delayed compounding on long-term goals and a slower path to financial freedom. But I'm not saying drain your safety, okay? I'm saying be intentional about where safety ends and where stagnation begins. Here's a staged redeployment plan. Number 1, ring-fence your true emergency fund. Put it in a dedicated break glass in case of emergency account. It's not there to be convenient, it's there to be reliable. Number 2, set your liquidity fund. A practical starting point is this. Keep around 1.5 to 2 months of your total monthly cash outflows available for normal spending and not earmarked for emergencies or goals. This is cash for your usual day-to-day, week-to-week spending that can sit across different accounts depending on how you run your cash flow system. Number 3, identify the excess. Anything significantly above liquidity plus emergency becomes candidate capital for your future goals. And fourth, create a migration schedule. Instead of one big move, you can decide a gradual plan over the next 3 to 6 months. Like move X pesos per month from excess buffers into, say, underfunded goals like education, retirement, or business. Or you can pay down expensive debt, if any, or maybe contribute to your long-term investing plan. And here's the important connection. Once your buffers are right-sized, you'll naturally ask, okay, so where should this excess go, and what do I do with future bonuses and lump sums? That's exactly what we'll cover in detail in the next episode. Now, if you're under-buffered, here's how to build a serious cushion without resentment. If you're a high earner, yes, often you can recover from a big surprise by tapping bonuses, future income, or even selling investments. But the question is, how disruptive do you want that to be? A well-designed buffer is there so that when life hits, you don't have to dismantle the rest of your strategy. Here's a realistic build-up approach. Number 1, set a target and time frame. For example, we want X pesos in true emergency funds within the next 12 to 24 months. Number 2, decide your buffer rule now. For example, until you hit your target, X% of monthly income goes to buffers and Y% of every bonus goes to buffers. And yes, sometimes it's okay to pause or slow long-term investing temporarily while you build this cushion. Focus is what gets the job done. Number 3, delay 1 or 2 upgrades on purpose. Identify 1 to 2 lifestyle upgrades or non-essential projects you'll pause until the buffer hits its target. Finally, number 4, automate. Set automatic transfers right after sueldo or cash in so this doesn't rely on monthly willpower. And I want to frame this positively. You're not going backward during this phase. You're buying resilience so your future decisions can be calmer and less reactive. Now, if cash still feels tight, the issue may not be spending, it may be your insurance premiums. My Insider's Insurance Audit Playbook walks you step by step to free up money in about an hour while keeping your insurance protection where it matters. Download it for free in the show notes or in the description below. Now, let me give you a quick win here. The 1-page buffer strategy sheet. By the end of this, you should be able to answer 3 questions. Number 1, what's my target emergency fund range? Number 2, how is it structured among accounts? And number 3, am I intentionally over, under, or within that range? And what's my plan from here? So here's a 1-page exercise you can do in 15 to 20 minutes. On a sheet of paper, notebook, or spreadsheet, create 4 boxes. On the top left quadrant, write down your target range. Indicate your true emergency target, like from X pesos to Y pesos, based on Z months of core expenses. On the top right quadrant, write your current position. List your current balances and assign them to the Liquidity Fund, your emergency fund, and opportunity funds. On the bottom left quadrant, diagnosis. Tick 1, over, within, or under. Then add 1 sentence. The main risk of this setup is fill in the blank. And finally, at the bottom right quadrant, your 12 to 18 month plan. If you're over buffered, how much will you reallocate to where and over what period? If you're underprotected, what % of income and bonuses will go to buffers until my target is hit? If you do just this 1-page exercise, your buffers stop being a vague feeling and actually become a deliberate part of your strategy. This series is about taking areas you already know, goals, insurance, emergency funds, investing, and upgrading them to a more strategic, professional level. If this video helped you see your finances more like a strategy problem and less like a pile of random decisions, consider subscribing on YouTube for more conversations like this. Also, we're putting every episode in this series in one place, the Optimization Deep Dives playlist. You'll find the playlist link in the description if you're on YouTube or in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast, so you can go through the series in order and come back anytime you need a reset. In the next episode, we'll talk about idle cash and lump sums. What to do once your buffers are right-sized, especially when you have time deposits, bonuses, profit share, vesting, or just sleeping money that's waiting for a decision. I'm Juan from Beacon Wealth Advisory, and I'll see you in the next episode.